So in this episode, we're going to have a look at stability. Now, energy resources can be classed as renewable or non-renewable. Non-renewable resources will run out one day. So for example, fossil fuels and nuclear fuels, they will eventually run out and they are non-renewable. And all non-renewable resources damage our environment. Renewable resources will never run out, and they can be or are being replenished as they are being used. So solar, wind, water, waves, hydroelectricity, biofuels, tides, geothermal, they're all examples of renewable energy resources. And most resources damage the environment, but renewable resources are less harmful than non-renewable resources. So, which of these are non-renewable resources? So, coal is a non-renewable resource, nuclear is a non-renewable resource, and natural gas is a non-renewable resource. And remember, renewable resources are less harmful than non-renewable resources for the environment. Now, heating and transport are two of the main uses of energy resources. So for transport, the non-renewable resources used are petrol and diesel in petrol and diesel vehicles, and we use the fuel from oil. And steam trains use coal for boiling water, and that produces steam. Now, you can also use renewable resources for transport, such as biofuels, and they power some vehicles, but that is fairly rare at the moment. So you can also think about heating. So some of the non-renewable sources of fuel for heating are natural gas, used to heat our homes. So that's the gas that comes out of your hob maybe at home, or is used to heat your boiler. And you can also use coal, and that's often sometimes burnt in fireplaces. There's also renewable sources of heating home. So some buildings are heated by geothermal heat pumps. Remember, that is the energy coming from magma, which is just lava when it's stored underground. And the geothermal heat pumps, geothermal energy sources, are used in that energy generation for the heating. Now, solar water heaters can also use energy from the sun to heat water, and you may have seen those on roofs around the country as you go. So solar water uses energy from the sun to heat water. Easy to remember that because it's solar and sun. And geothermal energy is most often used for heating. Two sources of non-renewable resources are nuclear and fossil fuels. A couple of examples of renewable resources would be geothermal and solar. Now, changing electricity use, how we people in the UK have used electricity has changed over time. So in the 20th century, electricity use increased in the UK because the population of the UK grew bigger. And in the 21st century, since the beginning of the 21st century, electricity use has decreased in the UK. This is because appliances are becoming more efficient, so they use less electricity, but people are also becoming more concerned with how much energy they use in their home. That's creating an overall reduction. So since the beginning of the 21st century, electricity use has been decreasing in the UK. So some trends in the uses of energy resources. The way we use energy resources has changed over time because of a few factors. Firstly, environmental concerns. Secondly, changing cost. And thirdly, technological advances which make appliances more efficient. And an example of a source of non-renewable energy is natural gas. An example of some renewable energy sources are solar, wind, and tidal. And remember that over the 20th century, electricity use increased in the UK because the population of the UK grew bigger. And some of the reasons that the use of electricity in the UK has changed is that appliances become more efficient in the 21st century, so the use of electricity has gone down, and it went up in the UK in the 20th century because a greater number of people were using a larger amount of electricity. So the way we use energy resources has changed over time because of three factors. First of all, technological advances. Secondly, environmental concerns. And thirdly, changing costs.